Okay, hello everyone. We are here for a Wolfram language design review. It's actually not one of the ones in our usual series. It's been a different series that we haven't been live streaming up to this point, but now we will. This is
Sometimes.
about, actually, maybe we have done it sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is about improving our graphics and visualization capabilities. And we are currently talking about the backing out of a design horror that I must have been asleep at the wheel for. That is the crazy distinction between chart style and plot style that makes it really hard to remember whether you use plot style or whether you use chart style. So let's start off with the history, and then I think we have a proposal here, I hope. Okay, hierarchies of data were designed in the charting functions. Unknown to me, but anyway.
Right. And then so like that first row of bar charts has go ahead and make that last one bigger because it's clipping off its label. Um, the plot label has what the chart style is for each of those. And so the first, in generality, there's like shortened forms that get used more typically, but the first one is
I
blue-green.
understand. So the data, let's just understand. The shape of the data is basically ABC, A1, A, B1, C1, right? And the first level, so could I go to 3 levels or not? Or is it like, oh, it's only 2?
Mostly it just goes to. Um,
Okay.
the paired bar charts below that are one of the rare examples where it goes 3.
All right. Okay. So the basic point is somebody had the bright idea that we would have styling that reflects the top level and the next level in a list like this, whereas our traditional plot style styling just goes at the top level, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I understand. So I never understood this before. So just to be clear. Um I was wondering why these blues and greens look so much better. It's because of the standard blue, standard green. The, um, I don't even know what this could possibly mean. I see that's none at the top level, none at the next level, and this at that level. It's pretty obscure. Okay. Now, if I were to do the following, if I were to say, let's take my bar chart here of, and this will be of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right?
Yep.
And let's say I was to put around the first one of those style, edge form red, standard red. Um, Style at and let's say I was to put around here why I mean that's good what it did, but I don't understand why are these differently colored? Is that the default?
Those are the default colors except for the purple.
Yeah, okay. Okay. All right. So this is a pretty good solution that is pretty easy to understand for how you deal with this hierarchical stuff. Am I making sense?
Right.
It's
I
an
mean,
inside out solution as opposed to an outside in solution.
right.
Okay. Now, obviously, we're generally trying to support both inside out and outside in.
Right, and wrappers and wrappers versus options, and most things you can do either way.
Fine.
Um,
Okay. All right. I get it. So, okay. Okay. Combining things, but you can't always combine. Right? I mean, basically, it's going to give a bunch of graphics directives in that order. If they combine, great. If they don't, they don't. Am I making sense?
right, right. I mean, and so right. I mean, one of the differences with the chart style things is that because it had multiple sets of directives, it doesn't allow you to use list as the directive combiner. You have to use the symbol directive.
I understand. I mean, so do you for plot style, right?
No, plot style. Okay, you should be using directive with plot style to combine like, red and opacity or thickness or whatever. But for backward compatibility reasons, it still accepts list in that role.
I see. So if I were to say plot sin x, I see. Okay. So if I were to have two curves here, I
One is
see.
dotted and one is red. And if you put like an extra level of list around the whole thing, then they'll both be dotted red.
Okay. 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 All right. I think we get what's here.
Right.
Okay. How many more things are there like chart style where the option in bar chart is different from the option in plot or list plot?
There's a handful of them.
Okay.
I
What
mean,
are
and
they?
it's like, so chart style, and some
Chart
of them are a little
legends.
bit different. I mean, so we have like chart elements, which doesn't have, I mean, it kind of corresponds to plot markers in list plot, but not entirely. Um,
Chart elements has to go. Why is that not plot? I mean, sorry, chart legends rather.
yeah, I mean, chart legends is really close to plot legends. It's
This is a shit show. I'm sorry. It's really bad. It really shouldn't have been allowed to go through like this. It's really bad. It's a reminder I have to pay attention at all times. All right. What other things have you inventoried? What other things are you know got broken? I mean, like things like this chart base style. What's that? That's just base style, right?
ish.
Normally. What's the ish? What's different?
It is different in that base style is a lower level thing. It is,
Okay.
and
Well,
chart base style
if we
is
need chart based
related.
style, we need plot based style. So what's the story?
I mean, I'm not sure we do need the base styles with the new design.
Okay. They were to have fixed up some other design disaster. Chart element function. What's this?
That is what we've just, the one that, for example, in distribution chart, I mean, it has the biggest effect in
Oh,
distribution chart. Most of them,
that's a
it's
horrifying
just
thing.
an aesthetic change of appearance sort of thing.
But what can it be set to? Can it be set to anything or?
It can, there's strings and named strings, that sorts of things, or it can be a pure function that it takes some information, and you write a function that returns graphics primitives, and
Okay,
it
I get it.
draws those.
Okay, chart labels. I mean, you did look at all of these, right, as part of this review.
Yes.
Okay. So do you have a comment on chart labels before we go on?
No, I don't.
So, I mean, it should be plot label. Is that right?
Labels. Right, we have both plot label and plot labels. Plot label is the label for the overall plot,
Yes.
and labels is the elements.
Okay, so this is plot labels, plural.
Yes.
I hadn't quite internalized that we have plot labels, plural.
Right. I
Okay.
remember when we introduced it, it was one of those things that, it was like, do we want something that's more than just different by an S? And you decided that it was okay.
Yeah. Hopefully correct decision.
I mean, it's not one that you've complained about that,
Well, it's because
you
I
know,
forgot it existed.
right. And you get in there through, other syntaxes for adding labels generally.
Hmm.
Um,
I usually just put an explicit labels around each thing because I can't, because plot labels, plural, it's hard to keep track of, which curve is going with what. You add another curve, your toast, all those kinds of
right.
things.
Yep.
Which is why I think the fine control stuff should be done. We should encourage people to do it with wrappers, not with these things. And we can have quite precise and complicated syntax if you really need to do something from the outside. Okay, let's dig in here.
Right.
Okay,
So scroll back up a little bit. So those 8 lines or so are the synopsis.
I see. Okay, all right, fine. This is the proposed design.
Yes.
Okay, I strongly doubt this is correct. You're proposing that PlotStyle hierarchicalize in the case of charts? That's just going to be super confusing.
I'm saying that if you say plot style goes to red, green, blue, it will be equivalent to what chart style does right now.
Which I have
Th
no
th th
idea what it
th
does.
that is not a hierarchical spec for plot style.
Okay, why did it not go hierarchical? Oh, because for some reason it bank switches. If it's only one level, it doesn't try and hierarchical fly.
So chart style,
Why didn't it pick up that I did a command L? Why didn't it pick that up?
um, because the notebook was specially constructed.
What sense?
Hmm?
And why are you saying that seriously?
No, what I'm saying is that I have, the input you see is not the input that generated the picture, but
Oh,
the
I
input
see.
that generated the picture
I
was
I
there.
I, I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I mean that's the obvious thing for plot style to do in this case. Is it?
But
Wait a minute.
it's
Wait.
easy with
It's not.
colors, but what if it's red dotted and thick or something?
Yes, but also it's not obvious this is correct because in the plot style, this would label the top level of this.
I
This
think
would
it'd make them all
style the top
yellow.
level. What's that?
In a plot, it would make them all yellow because the last color wins, I think. Is that right?
No.
Right, that'll all be yellow.
Or orange, as the case may be.
Right. I mean, even if you did list plots, they'd all be orange. It'd be 3 orange points.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, but let's keep going with the proposal. And this is not
Right. And so, yes, and I'm not proposing any changes for plot style and like list plot or anything like that. Or at least not plot style goes to list. I am proposing that we introduce plot style goes to association, which would be sort of completely new and would be a way to get hierarchical control.
yes.
And the form of the association would be slightly different, depending on if your data was sort of lists of lists type thing, or if it's a
What about if it's
tabular
an
with named
association?
columns sorts of things.
What about if it's actually an association?
An actual association is okay. It depends if it's one association or an association of associations. Right.
So what, like bar chart can take an association, right?
Yes.
Okay, now if I say plot label, oh no, it's chart labels, right? To
Yep.
automatic. Okay. So, I mean, clearly, if I say plot style, except of course it's chart style, which it shouldn't be, goes to, A goes to red and so on, that should do the right thing. Can't do something wacky. See what I'm saying?
Right. Agreed. That is along the lines of what I was thinking for.
Okay. So how does the list thing look? What do the ones and twos mean there? Are they level numbers or are they
Yes,
column?
level numbers. I don't know, talk about it for a second. I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay. All right. So what is your proposal now for in this case, this is corresponding to the association, but you're also proposing something different here, which is this, right? Which is very wacky.
So sorry, I'm not seeing where you're pointing.
They're here. This is incompatible with this syntax. right?
Not entirely. I mean, there could be cases where you'd have to use key to distinguish or something. If your association keys were numbers themselves.
Seems kind of
But
hacky to me. Okay, but this is your proposal. Now, in the case of tabular, okay, so do we have an example of that here?
we've got examples further down.
Okay.
Under little right off the bottom of your screen, I think.
I mean, that's nice. Does this work at all now with ChartStyle and things?
Not yet. We've prototyped a lot of it, but it's not in any builds at the moment.
Why isn't that an association? Are they not unique? They have to be unique.
No, they would have to be unique. It could be an association, yes.
Okay. Okay, so the one thing we haven't taken care of here is the hierarchical data stuff. And I'm thinking about a different way to do that. But let's keep going here.
Right. I forgot to update some of that text.
Right.
But...
So I mean, in tabular, we have a bunch of row things and column things. We could consider everything except, paired list plot, which has that extra level. We could again consider it as row column type stuff. Am I making sense? And use some of that nomenclature.
I think the last time we discussed this, we didn't like the row and column, and I forgot to remove that note in this iteration of the notebook. I think the concern was that people might have keys named row and column.
I see. All right, so let me just understand. I mean, so we got these other things like chart legends and so on. Are you saying that if we solve PlotStyle, we've solved everything?
There might be some corner cases, but by and large, what happens with one would happen with the others.
Okay. Okay.
Right. I mean,
So
the,
really,
the question is,
go ahead.
I was going to say the place where it's a little bit fuzzier is if we want to rename chart elements to plot markers, sorts of thing, that sort of thing.
What exactly does chart elements do?
I don't think it gets used a lot. Its main thing was to do those stacked, bar chart things with the
Pictures of elephants or something.
yes. Which works for something like bar chart, but there's no corresponding thing in list plots, say.
What does it work for? Does it work for bar chart? What else has chart elements?
Bar chart 3D, histogram, bubble chart 3D. Not the pie charts, but everything else that has chart in the name.
I mean, I'm
pretty
kind
much.
of thinking, bar element graphics or something like this would be a clearer name to say what it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Bar. Well, what would it be? I mean, is that the right
What
name?
do we have in graph? We have. Well, okay. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of. Right. So we have chart elements and we have chart element function. And chart element function, you can go off and compute things to figure out how to draw the bar.
You're talking about vertex shape function.
Yes, but I think is there just a vertex shape?
No. There's a vertex. There's vertex style, vertex size, all those kinds of things.
And vertex shape.
What the hell is vertex shape?
The graph equivalent of chart elements, I think.
I never use it. Yeah, I think this is something which has not been terribly successful, which is these named elements. I mean, do we think that's been successful in plots? Named elements.
Right, I mean, so chart elements doesn't have named ones. I don't think.
I mean, I don't understand in this case here. Well, this is all vertex shape function. Oh, that's what that is. Okay.
You wanted vertex shape.
I did. And that's where I went. Somehow I wound up on vertex shape function.
It auto-completed at the last instant and
How the hell does it set the size for this? Oh, it sets the size from vertex size.
yeah.
But so this doesn't have named elements, named things, whereas plot marker does. I mean, the consistent thing to do would have a vertex marker. I'm not sure that's sensible, though. Is Roger here?
I'm not sure where he is. Normally he is, but
Somebody check, please. Who's project managing? Could you please check?
Helping him.
Okay. All right. So I'm not wild about bar element shape, which is that would be the analog of vertex shape. Bar components. What would you call those things that bars are made of?
what are bars made of? Bars? I mean, my preference would be possibly to lean back toward marker and yeah, and it may be that bar chart takes a plot markers specification that is
I don't believe in that. I don't think you can make these out of but now could we imagine like these in pie charts, some other 2D thing where we're filling up a 2D object with pictures of elephants or whatever?
I mean, I could imagine it, and we probably have better technology for it now than we did back in V7. And we have not pattern filling, but or maybe pattern filling is the one that will do the tiling and stuff.
So So by the way, presumably here, I could say in this picture, which I have to use, what the heck? Why did it beep there? I have to use ChartStyle here right now. I could use here, hatch filling.
Yes.
Lovely. And I could even use what color is that hatch filling?
It is probably whatever that default yellow is. And that'll be an orange. And if you do a third one, it'll be the blue.
But why didn't that change the angle?
Why would it do that?
Because it draws parallel lines with angle theta.
Oh. Probably does. Give it some
I
other
mean,
number.
that's probably the default.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. By the way, do we have at this point a monochrome theme that uses hatching?
That is the plot theme black white, or chart. Yeah, plot theme black white.
Okay. Okay. So another thing we got to worry about here. I mean, I'm not wild. For some reason, I never use vertex shape. And there must be a good reason for that. It's probably because the scaling doesn't work properly.
I mean, I suspect it's probably because you never want the same exact shape for all the vertices.
No, but this
That
gives a
you
way to
want
do
something
Look,
that is.
Look. There we go. The problem is it doesn't say where the shape is relative to the vertex. It's, but maybe it could with placed and so on.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is that in your cases, it's probably more straightforward to use vertex shape function.
Yes, I understand. But why would it? I mean, this would be, this seems straightforward, except for the fact that we're not define the sizes and all that kind of stuff. So I understand your point. Okay. I mean, I'm not wild about this vertex shape thing, and that we should put that on a, All right. Can I just ask, with other functions other than bar chart, things with exotic other elements like, I don't know, bubble chart, for example, does this have a bunch of exotic options?
No, same chart element as all the charting functions.
I mean, it has a couple things with like how the bubbles get sized, but
That's fine, but that's orthogonal and that's separately named.
Yep.
Right.
So really the only horror area are the chart style functions. Is that a
Yes.
fair statement? Which includes chart elements, which is just not a very great name. But now graphics to use for each of the. Oh, that's still, wait a minute. How does chart elements enter a bubble chart? Is it like the bubbles are elephants or what?
Yes. And
Yes.
go down to the examples.
I mean, look at bubble chart under the option. You can click down there.
Why didn't that go back? Guys, report that bug. Did you understand what just happened? We followed a link, but it didn't go back to the previous anchor point.
It went back to
Yes,
the
got it.
previous page.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, I'm aware of that bug.
Has that been there forever?
It's I mean, it makes an attempt, it's just computing the attempt wrong.
Scroll down.
Yeah.
You see it's open there, but you have to scroll down. There you go.
I see. Okay. So where else do we have chart elements?
In most charting functions, like bar chart has it.
I know, we know that. Pie chart does not, correct?
Pie chart does not. Pie chart 3D does not.
Rectangle chart.
Rectangle chart does. Things like distribution chart and box whisker chart do not, because yeah.
what? Because they were not designed properly.
No.
Well, no, because
the-
those
the-
have such specialized appearances for what they draw that,
that it doesn't
you
make
know,
sense.
how would you stick an elephant in there?
Like these functions, like this function has literally one scalar element that's represented by size. So you can always scale a shape. And bar chart scales it in one direction.
Well, bar chart doesn't scale
rectangle
the shape,
scales it in
the
two
shape.
directions.
It repeats the shape.
Yeah.
So does rectangle chart tessellate with elephants?
Yes.
I mean, it depends what you ask for.
Yeah.
You know, I've never used this.
I
would've
think
been
very
useful
few
to
people
me.
have.
It would have been useful to me a bunch of times, but I never knew.
If you go to the options,
version
look.
7?
Yeah. All the charting was introduced in version 7.
Wonder why I've never used this.
For almost all.
Right. I mean, as you can see, it has the ability to either tile or to stretch. So
What
the
makes it
ellipse is
stretch?
being stretched and the image is
Why?
being the picture.
Why? Why?
Why what?
Why is
Why-
it stretching in some cases and tiling in others?
Because in some cases it's tiling. So it's tiling if you just give the object. But if you say list of object, comma, in that case all, then it
Why?
stretches to fill that entire dimension.
Why? What does the all mean? Why isn't chart elements here a list of scalar objects that are used as the chart elements? Why does this syntax make any sense?
Because
You can go to that reference page for chart element and you'll see the full syntax.
or just,
Chart element.
I mean, just stay on the page you're on right now. Or you're in bubble chart now. Maybe that's not a great one. But you can either say you all means stretch to fill the region, or you can say what you want the unit to be. So
And why is that in a list? Why is that in a pair like that? Okay, so this is a hackeration here. What the hell is this? G1, G2 is separate graphics for some bizarre reason. Having, a second argument of two numbers is interpreted in a special way.
sure.
I don't know what you object to. We have many things like that.
This is one of the casualties of Wolfram Alpha. Because I wasn't paying attention in 2008. We do not have things that work like this. Do not have things that, this thing is a list of elements. It's not this, which would be something where, what we would do, at least nowadays, with something like that, if we had to do that, and this is maybe the kind of thing we'd go to, is to do something like this. See what I'm saying?
I know you like the rule syntax.
Well, it's a lot better than this, because do you understand why this doesn't make any sense?
No,
It's like,
it makes sense.
because there's
You just like the rule syntax.
no, it has nothing to do with that, Roger. It has to do with the fact that this is not a consistent thing. We're using a list to represent a sequence of things for the ith element. Okay, so are you telling me then, if I wanted to do,
So a graphic is not the same as a list of numbers.
G3, I know, but look at this.
Do you understand that? The type difference?
Watch this. Watch this.
Hmm?
Does that work? Does that work? Does that do the obvious thing?
What obvious thing? You want
What-
this
what-
list WH
You tell me.
used?
You tell me. What does that do?
Nothing. It doesn't seem like it would be an approved. Oh, wait a minute.
Okay.
You can have spec, spec, spec. Yeah, you can do that. Not like
So
that,
what
but
does that mean?
look at the last one. Spec, spec,
I
spec.
understand that. I
Okay.
understand that. But you're using a single list here to represent this. If what you had there was a double list like this, it would make sense. Right? But a single list doesn't make sense because you are led to think about things like this, which don't make sense.
No.
Come on, we've been doing this a
Mm,
long time. You
I
know
know,
perfectly well that
but
this
I
is
don't think
not,
you're right.
this is a, oh, of course I'm right. Come on, look at this. Look at
Hmm?
this. You've got list of graphics, right? We
Yeah.
understand what that means.
So
right?
those
What
are
we should
all
have done,
those are all atomic specs that can go into where spec
this is a design mistake. Let's just
Fine,
call it
I
that
know
and
you
move on.
like the rule.
It's
Okay,
nothing to
we
do
can
with the rule.
change to the
It's nothing to
rule.
do with that. It's nothing to do with that, Roger.
I know
This
you
is a
put rules
design
everywhere.
mistake. Look at it. Look at it. You shouldn't do this. This is something where you're thinking about it as a list of graphics, right?
Mhm.
You're not thinking about it as this weird hacky thing where you saved a list bracket, right?
Mhm.
If you'd had this, it would have been fine. Then it would have meant something, right? Then you can go G1, G2, width, height, we're all good. See what I'm saying? But to have this be, look, we have a couple of cases where we did this, and it's always horrifies me. Like outer, for example, has, outer has this solitary number meaning something different. It's a bad design.
Sure.
It is a necessary design in that case because it's a Verrog's function, but it is not a nice design.
But you can do exactly what you're asking for there. That is the last
I
spec,
understand.
spec,
I
spec.
understand. So we shouldn't document this.
Okay.
I mean, okay, but we got more issues. I mean, okay, so chart elements, I'm warming to the idea that that's an okay name for what it is, which is you're putting, I think, well, we'll have to see, but it seems not completely crazy. Now, I
It
don't know
really
what
is
happens.
chart specific.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But what happens if you have hierarchical charting data? What the heck does this do in that case? Do you understand my question?
Let's go to a third level of list.
No. I want to know what it does here. If I say, what am I going to say? I'm going to say, what happens if I just say something like UV?
No idea. That's not documented.
Sizes or a list of these. That's funny. That's funny. That error message is contorting itself because it's a bad design. Okay. So now here, can I just say disk?
You
And
need
then
to say
rectangle.
graphics of disk.
Why is that? Why
Because
is
it
that?
says so.
I understand.
Well,
Why is that? Why did you design it that way? It seems like the wrong design.
so if you just have list disk rectangle there, is that two things or is that one graphic with a disk and a rectangle in it?
Well, I assume it's not one graphic because it's in a list. Okay, so what this did, for some random reason, is it went to level 2. Why it went to level 2, I don't have the slightest idea.
Because the chart things generally goes to their deepest level first. Right? I mean, that's exactly the same thing that ChartStyle is doing.
Okay, that's obscure.
Mm,
Because look, Roger, you weren't here at the beginning of the meeting, so we're not going to repeat the whole of the beginning of the meeting. You can
no, but
listen to
plot
it.
is flat. It doesn't have notional levels.
I'm well aware. Okay.
Right, but if you
There's a
put
fair
an
amount
extra
to
level
clean
of
up
list
here.
around that chart elements
Yeah, I
and say
understand.
comma none,
No, I'm not going to say common none. What the hell is it doing there? This is stupid. This is really badly done. My God.
I don't think so. I think it's completely consistent,
Yes, Roger, but
self-consistent.
it's also unusable. Have you used it much?
Well, I used it a lot in the first couple of years when we rolled this out and
Yeah, I
expanded on
understand.
it.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but you know what? Whenever I've tried to use it, basically I have to ask Brett how to do it. That's not an adequate result, right? It's not helped that the documentation is bad and inadequate, but also it's just wrong design.
In which way is it the documentation bad?
I can't find the things I need when I need to use them.
But it's better than almost all other documentation. So that means that you're gauging the rest of the documentation to be even worse.
Of our system?
Yeah.
Oh, look, chart elements. How much
No,
documentation
no, no,
is
no, no,
there?
no, no, no,
Look at
no,
this.
no,
Look
no,
at
no.
this.
I've said this a million times to you. It's properly documented under the function that uses
Yes,
it.
under the function. So you have to know, in Roger's mind, he decided not to document it here because he was documenting it somewhere else. How does
No,
somebody
no.
who's reading documentation know that?
We've had this discussion
Right. So
tens
the
of
answer
times.
is
And you finally added something which is a down arrow that shows to the, and we provided those option examples for each function.
Okay. So what we're also
cannot-
doing is we're never asking people to indirect to find something. We're never asking people to do that. We shouldn't be doing that. If they get to this page, they should find out how to use chart elements on this page for the function they want, not having to go to some other page. And also, I haven't a slightest idea why the cow is
So
defined
then we
with
should
G.
do, in that case, we should do an automated system that pulls in that option section here.
We do that in many places.
No, we
You haven't
don't.
used it. You haven't used it in this case. We have done that in many cases. If you look at what happens in many, many functions, like let's say we do list plot, for example, it'll say,
No.
yes, it says, look at that, list of all options down there.
No, that's not what I was saying. You misunderstand. What I'm saying is that
okay, look, we got to fix this design. This meeting is about fixing this design. Okay, so let's go back to fixing this design. Okay. So there's a bunch of stuff to take out here. I don't know what, I mean, we'll have to have a compatibility.
I think that the main thing I hear is that you want a rule instead of list.
No, that's not that. No, you should have showed up at the beginning of the meeting, Roger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've already discussed. We're getting rid of ChartStyle.
Okay.
We're getting rid of all that nonsense.
We're going to have a multi-level plot style.
No, Roger, you weren't here at the beginning of the meeting. Go listen to the recording.
Okay.
Okay. Let's figure out how we're going to do this. So let's go through. So Brett, you have not adequately exposed all the issues here. So next time, please make sure you've actually exposed all the options, all the crazy things that were done with them.
Okay.
Okay. It's a pity we were not recording all these design meetings back in 2008.
I mean, if it was released 2007, it's probably earlier.
It was 2000.
No, it's probably 2007.
Oh, it was 2008. It was 7 versus 7.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's go through here. All right. So the key problems, as I see them, are these things with hierarchical data structures where the different levels of the hierarchy mean a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in these chart outside in, so the inside out styling stuff is fine so far as I can tell. No
Right.
change.
So
no
the
issues.
wrappers. Those
Yeah.
You mean wrappers? Okay.
The outside in stuff is having a hard time referring correctly to, this level of the data. Now, it is interesting that here,
I mean,
well, okay,
there's,
yeah.
I mean, the options do not have a way to, if you scroll down a little bit more, okay, there. Like, so in that case where we have the two levels, that the two red, orange, yellow sets of bars,
Mm-hmm.
the options do not have a way to say, I want that first yellow bar to be purple like you did with the wrappers. It is
Right, they have a mix-in strategy. In other words, if I put in here,
Yeah, you can combine like edge form and color.
I'm well aware. Right.
Okay.
So it's doing something different. The wrappers simply override. Correct?
They're
right.
innermost,
I mean,
yes.
the wrapper's overripe, but what I mean is that because that one yellow bar isn't sort of an entire slice of the hierarchy. It's not addressable by a style by itself.
I understand. I understand. I mean, we could invent a Baroque mechanism similar to what we do in grid boxes and grids for referencing elements by parts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, John, if you're paying attention here,
I am now.
I don't think the way of, I mean, to me, what happened in grids where you say element, 1, 2 goes to whatever it is better than the incredibly Baroque, set of sublists and lists to reference an element. Because that's a similar problem, right?
Well, I mean, even better yet is the use of item, assuming that you can crack open the thing that you're
Right. So
passing
so
through.
that's exactly what we're talking about here. Because if I say, item, background arrow pink or something,
Yeah,
then it'll do exactly the right thing. But that is exactly the inside out
right.
method
That's
of
assuming
styling
that
things.
that you can reasonably modify the inside. Yes.
Yeah.
Right, which is what we're doing in graphics as well, where we have a wrapper here. If I put something on here that says style, comma, standard blue. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And then it came in and opacified it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. This is, by the way, in another context, a discussion we didn't finish. This is something that happens in Grid 2, where you can get combinations of effects based on applying different kinds of effects at different levels. In this case, the different kinds of effects being opacity versus the color value.
Right,
Yeah.
but
So,
I can't
so
back
if you
this
do
out.
something for rows versus columns,
Hold on,
they'll
what happens if
overlap.
I say opacity
Yeah.
1 here?
You probably I don't think you can specify opacity like that. Actually, I don't know, but
Why didn't that work?
I think I have a PR for that.
Opacity wrap around standard blue. That's yeah, opacity of 1 comma standard blue.
Yeah,
Then that
that's what he did.
opacity no longer has an effect. I don't
Yes.
understand why the other one didn't. Oh, because I
The other
can't
one
do
was
that
a
with
parsing
color,
bug
yeah.
that I have a PR for.
Okay. All right. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's just enumerate what we've got here. We've got, inside out paren wrappers, which do not mix, or do they? They don't mix.
They do mix.
override.
They do mix. So
Yeah.
if you can put a wrapper at 3 different
Oh yeah,
levels.
right. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Right. Okay, they mix. Then we've got options that reach in to the structure. Okay, we got two approaches to that. One is dense reach in with various kinds of lists where basically we are mirroring the structure of the data in the option. That makes sense to people?
It's sort
And
of
the
the
other,
dimension of the data, right? It's
well, the other one is sparse reach in, which is what's used in grid, for example, where it's like, reach in by part number. Correct?
yes.
Yes, among other things. I mean, grid also does row, column, which is kind of a variation of that. But yeah.
Okay, so then this is axis-based reach in, row, column, etc. So remind me how grid does. So the problem is in grid, in a lot of things, what we're doing is we're taking, let's say the data is ABC. We're doing something that frankly is quite obscure. The data is that, but
So
now
it's a matrix, right? So you have rows and columns.
I understand that. So now what we have is row spec, column spec, right? And within that, we can be saying, oh, the row specs, there are two of those, green and blue, whatever else. Now let's remind ourselves how we've done this in Tabular.
By the way, just to be complete, in grid, you can do row spec, column spec, part spec.
Okay, fine.
Right. It's a combination of the axis-based and sparse reach-ins.
Which is not completely crazy for what we're looking at in the plotting case as well. Okay, can we talk about how this works in Tabular?
So in Tabular, you would have the association. You would have string, the keys be rows, columns, row rules, column rules. So you have 4 keys that you can specify.
Say what they are. Row keys, column key. Yeah.
Yeah, so the third one would be just rows.
What does that mean?
Yes.
Rows, just row
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, and then columns.
So what am I doing here? So in rows, what am I doing? Am I giving an association for one goes to whatever, or what am I doing?
That's the
doing
rules.
Yeah, yes, that's the rules.
So what do I give here?
Rows is like blue-green.
Right, or cyclic.
The rows and columns are positional in a sense.
Right.
I mean, it's a dense type of representation. Whereas
Yes, I
the row
understand.
rules and column rules are a sparse thing.
So I could say cyclic, opacity, something like this, and that would do a mix-in. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, John. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to, well, yeah, sorry. No, I was just thinking that I'm not sure whether you call that row spec, column spec, or I guess that's row spec it's a specification for each column of a given row, I guess. Sorry,
You think it's called spec, row spec?
Yeah, well, it's spec in the X direction, comma, spec in the Y direction.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I just realized there's kind of a bit of ambiguity and
Right. Okay, but now what we've chosen to do in Tabular is these named associations.
Mhm.
One of the problems in the plot stuff is we don't have an obvious name, rows and columns. outer data. We could imagine things like groups. I don't like it very much. Data groups, data. I don't know see what I'm saying? I mean, so take the most difficult case, the paired histogram case.
Right, the paired bar chart. Yeah.
Paired bar chart, sorry. But you've got 3 levels there, you say.
Mm-hmm.
So explain what those levels are. Those are
The entire
I assume a bar chart has 2 levels. So if you're going to pair them, you're going to have combined 2 of those.
right. So paired bar chart has 3 levels. One is the outermost is left, right.
mhm.
And then the second one, the middle one is within, each side you're looking at the groups. And then the bottom one is within each group you're doing the bars in each group.
All right, but we need an analog. One thing to do is to have an association that's the analog of what we're doing for tabular. You know, this type of approach seems like it could work very directly in grid, for example. Am I making sense? So, I mean, for example, if we say background and grid, and right now we would have grid of this, and then we have background goes to, and this is just a voyage of discovery type thing. I don't know what the hell it's going to do.
Yeah. Takes some getting used to.
If you unformat that cell,
This one here.
yeah.
How
Right.
interesting.
Internally in the boxes, it is
So
turning
in fact, using
into,
rows and columns.
yeah.
And there's also a part spec, is I forget the name of the key, but there's also a separate part spec rule that can be
So
used.
really all we'd be doing if we allowed the possibility of saying background arrow, and here we would say columns, just to understand what this would be. This would be columns arrow, standard red, standard green.
Yep.
That's really pretty nice and pretty understandable. And I wouldn't have to look at the documentation every time I use it.
Just every other time.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I would get this, particularly if you
Well,
also
I mean,
complete
you might take a
tabular
little
things.
bit to like internalize columns versus column rules. or
Probably easier
something.
to understand with a hint that tries to give you a template to follow.
Yeah, exactly, which is what we would do. I mean, this seems like a clear win, this particular thing.
I mean, we didn't have associations at the time, so
I'm aware. So let's go clean it up. Right?
wish it was easier to type them.
Well, there's a certain number of letters on the keyboard. It's not so bad. I mean, you're doing a shift and you've got 2 characters once you're shifting. Okay. In any case, so I mean, one thing we could certainly do for the 2-level visualization things is allow rows and columns at least as as names.
I think that's
Those
a
may not,
pure improvement. Completely with you.
right, but I mean, I'm not sure those are the only names because I think it's groups and data or something like that.
Right.
But
I mean,
now
it's possible that. I mean, how much flexibility do you think we have on those association keys? In the case of, say, paired bar charts,
Mhm.
You would have rows and columns and like sides,
Why not?
potentially. But sides wouldn't necessarily generalize to anything else that
It's all right. That's okay.
needed to go to 3.
That's okay. Look, I think we would want, okay, I don't have a problem with sides, but then, I mean, I don't know, was it left, right, or I don't know, because it can have orientation issues and things. So it might have to be this. I don't know, left, right isn't going to work because it might be up, down. So okay, so sides is probably just a list of paired things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my question is, see, I'm kind of favoring groups. If we're calling it sides, we could have groups, but then I don't want to call data sets because that's confusing. At the lowest level, what is the lowest level of data pool?
We just when we did this, it's 2 levels. It's only 2 levels, even
Well,
though
except when it's paired histograms.
yeah, except for that. But that's not necessarily really a level. I mean, it's sort of
Well, okay, but what will we call the 2 levels? I mean, in other words, it's one of them is grouping, right? Is that how would you describe it? If you describe a bar chart like one of these, what would you call? You would say the first group and the second group. Is that correct?
Yes.
yeah.
So then
And we
groups,
and we designed all of them to be 2 levels. So pies, we do donuts, for instance.
I understand. I know all this. Right.
Okay.
So what would you call the individual elements of the groups?
We actually call them elements, but
Maybe that's what we should call them.
Yeah, we could do elements.
Sides, groups, elements. Why not? And that's different from now in the case of list plot, right? We would call these things I mean, it's like data lists, but that's kind of ugly. Or data sets, but that's kind of weird. So
I think we avoided it by calling it data 1, data 2, and so on. Because in all of those sci-viz functions, we have 2 things we always need to explain: is regular data, irregular data, and then we have sort of the multiple data.
No, I understand that, but my point is, in these multi-level things, we're going to go to an association much of the time. Okay.
But
Right. I mean, so the thing is that at the moment,
there's no need to have an association.
Exactly.
There's no need to have an association, but I think it's going to need some nominal name there. Because the elements in a bar chart are smaller than the data lists in a list plot.
So originally we called them data sets, then we changed to data because we got this other name in. So
okay. Well,
they are sort of, I mean, they're function, in the case of function visualization, they're functions, and here they're sort of data sets. I mean,
yeah, I know.
Can they just be lists and points?
Well, we aren't doing points.
No.
At least not.
The problem with that is it doesn't fit the.
Okay, actually, I want to come back to Min's point there. Was Min, right?
Yes.
Why not allow one to? I mean, we don't have to implement it immediately, but why not have the concept you could label? This would be an outside-in way of coloring different points: red, blue, green, whatever it is.
We have to come up with a. I mean, I guess we can always reduce the dense case to the, the regular case to the irregular case, in which case the point is well defined, I guess.
Well, I mean,
think of list plot 3D, okay? So.
Well, I'm just saying the points. Okay, so the question is the ordering of the points and what point is what point, so to speak.
Yeah. So
I mean, there's only one ordering that matters, and that's in the data in the input.
Well, yeah, but the points is sort of one level below. Think of the value Z values in
Yeah, no, I know.
in
I know.
yeah.
I mean, you could have points alternately red and green based on where they appear in the data.
Right.
What happens in a bubble chart? You just have different colors of bubbles if you have them in two sublists, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's review again where we're at in terms of solving the original problem. So the original problem is hierarchical data, where, just so we understand ourselves, if I said list plot, just do.
Yeah, just remove
PlotStyle.
ChartStyle.
Hiss. Hiss. What happened to the initial points? What happened to the 1, 2, 3 up there? Why am I not seeing those?
They're yellow?
Yeah, they're yellow.
That was the problem.
Right. I mean, so this was the thing that we discussed at the very beginning, that for historical reasons, this is that first list of red, orange, purple is a combining style list.
Oh, right. We didn't have directive initially, right? So we
Right.
so we accepted lists. You know, if you
Yeah,
wanted to have it
I understand.
red and thick or something.
Yeah, I understand. That's a separate issue. But the main point here is we have, here, the top level, okay. We've got what we're calling lists. Here, we've got what we're calling groups. No, because that's the deepest level. That's the elements. In this case, the ordering is, elements, comma, groups, right? In this case, the ordering is just lists, right? Which are the analog of groups.
You have groups and elements backwards, I think.
No, I don't. No, that's the whole point. Look, that's the point. Here, the first chart style, let me get rid of all this opacity stuff. Wait a minute. I'm completely confused.
Yeah.
Which one? I'm sorry. I'm only sampling the red and orange because, in fact, you're right. Those are the groups first.
Correct.
But now, if I only have one of these things, so I have groups and elements, but if I have only one of them,
if you only have one of them, whether it's just a flat list or a list, a list of a list, that is elements.
Youch. Okay. Because you actually want it to be the case that if you only give a single thing here.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's cyclic by default, which is also kind of weird, but so it goes.
We do that in lots of places. That was a, list plot does that.
I know. And grid does that in some very obscure syntax with an additional sublist.
Right.
Okay. So, I mean, remember, when we go from ChartStyle to PlotStyle, we do get some freedom to change some of the stuff around. I agree that a single level list on a single level data setup right. So the single level list, the idea is we're not going to change its meaning Actually, this is totally obscure. This is totally obscure because this isn't a single level list. This is a double level list.
Well, you
But
don't have to
somehow,
make it double level.
I know you don't have to, but if you do, it's doing a crazy thing because the double level list you would expect to do exactly the same as the original red orange does there. See what I'm saying? But it doesn't. It blasts its way through that outer list and then uses that thing as a single level list for groups. No, for not for groups, a single level list for elements in that case. See what I'm saying?
It's
Okay.
not clear to me that one is crazier than the other.
No.
I think
we
this is
spent a
crazy.
lot of
I
time
think the
thinking about it
two-level
at the
list,
time.
the two-level list is wrong. The two-level
think-
list shouldn't do this.
I think
Two-level list should do this, which in this case is rather boring. It would the two-level list here has to be about groups in all cases. I mean, that's what grid would do in that situation. Okay, so let's go back. So the question is what to do. So plot style. Okay, let's review the nature of the problem. Okay, so plot style. Plot style expects lists / groups, aka data sets. Right?
yes.
Yep.
Whereas right now, and individual labeling, individual styling of data points is not, is not included.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Whereas in the current chart style,
Because an individual pointer is pretty dramatic. It's like a whole bar.
I'm aware. I'm aware.
You know.
In chart style, right. I mean, this is individual styling of elements. It's got styling of elements,
And also,
which is its default.
so I think that there's one thing to remember, like the Cyvis stuff. If you think of plot and list line plot, you think of things hanging together somehow, right? The list plot, our list plot should have been called scatter plot or something. And for the point case,
it's a good name anyway. But I don't agree with you. But
no, I understand. But
some random person thought it was about scatters. It was probably about scatters when it was used in 1962 or something. Anyway,
right, but it has a very different use case than these things that are continuous and hang together.
What do you mean continuous? You mean like bar
like
chart?
A curve, like list line plot, are things that hang together in a collect. The data set is just like you rarely have a single point, but for list plot, you want to study things like clustering. You want to study things like there's
No,
like
I
a
understand.
whole.
So you're saying you're labeling, in the case of list line plot, even it makes no sense to have a rainbow line, so to speak.
Right. I mean, we do have color function, but that's kind of derived in a different.
All right. So okay. Right. Individual styling data points is not included. Right. I take your point. That's a good point. Okay. So but it's only relevant for the zero-dimensional plots, not e.g. curve plotting. Right?
Right.
And the point here, let's see.
Each point here is like each data value here is kind of significant,
No, I understand, but I mean in bubble chart, for example,
And
We
same
are
thing.
not, wait a second. Chart style and bubble chart. Let me just check.
Bubble chart breaks the rules.
Oh, it does.
It should have been bubble plot in retrospect.
I love the way that you just, well, I'm glad you volunteered that before I had to discover it.
We've mentioned it before, in meetings along these lines.
Well, let's have it not break the rules by making everything consistent. Okay, so
Yep.
you're saying in this bubble chart thing. So if I say 1, 1, 1, for example, and then I say 2, 2, 2, for example, that will make two bubbles. Okay,
And
now
they
we
are both
say,
yellow. They are not like yellow and blue or yellow and orange or whatever.
right. So if I say chart style to standard red, I assume they both turn red. If I say chart style to standard red, standard blue, I'm assuming one of them will turn red and one of them will be blue.
I don't remember. Okay.
Okay, but now,
But if you had two sets of points,
right. So if I do this, and I also have okay, so that's digging deepest to the deepest level. That's element and then group. So
Yeah.
now in
no,
the
no,
I think it is.
I
Oh,
just,
no, wait a minute. Which one is 1.5? Oh, where the...
oh no, that did it by group, which is not consistent.
correct.
That
That's
did it
what
by
I'm
group.
saying. Is that first group is
Oh
red,
my
the second
God.
group is blue.
What a mess. But this wouldn't have been right either to call it bubble plot. You wouldn't have been able to address these. I mean, the basic point is bubbles are big,
Yes.
just
Right.
like bars are big.
Yeah, and you actually use the size to encode one value.
Right. But I mean, so basically what happens is chart style goes to like flat list of colors is different in bubble chart than it is in bar chart and pie chart. If you have the group and element, sets both, or some list of set of styles, comma none, then it's consistent. I mean, that part doesn't change.
This is the default interpretation of what you're saying.
Right. The default interpretation of a single level of styles is sometimes element and sometimes group, depending on the function.
Okay, let's go through what's what. Okay, the single level here is this. Okay, so single level style specs. And in list plot and that stuff, it is, data lists, data list level. In bar chart, it is element level, right?
Mm-hmm.
In bubble chart, it is element level. No, except it's not, except it does something dopey there. In bubble chart, it is elements if there's a single level list, groups if it's multi-level.
Right. I mean, and along those lines also, list plot is combined if it's a single level, and
well, combined, that's because of the hackeration of not using directed.
Right, of us
Plus-
not having the foresight
plus-
about
Things that we invented 20 years later,
Yep.
plus the non-directive version. For a single data list. Okay. All right.
Well, so I want to point out that when we designed this, we were trying to make whatever it makes sense when they are when there are two, more than one list of data points, and we want to compare them. So the reason we did this for bubble chart is that bubble chart, the data itself has the connotation of positions. So by default, they are not grouped together like bar chart. So if when there are multiple groups and the chart style is a flat list, if it is not pushed to the group level, you cannot tell which group is what. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Ethan has commented, perhaps supports annotations in the arguments. Absolutely, we already do that. Absolutely what we're doing. So if I go here and I say style of that, comma, standard green, blah, just works.
Yeah, you can do that at all levels.
Yeah.
Three levels.
Right. So, I mean, and again, we need to clarify somewhere that inside out trumps outside in. Correct?
Correct.
Correct.
The thing
Yeah.
that is closest to the data
the
wins.
binds the closest. Yeah, that's the principle, and sorry, that is documented in each function that supports wrappers.
Okay, fine.
There
Okay.
are other hierarchies too. There's sort of other options that can kind of trump each other, and that's also described which order is prioritized.
Okay, fine. Okay. So the basic problem we have, which we're getting pretty close on, is right. When does PlotStyle reference? See, one of the issues is, and one of the things that makes one go bonkers is a standard design mistake, okay? Which is you're not thinking about the most common case. The most common case is I don't want any of this complicated multi-data set, blah, 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 blah. I just want one thing that's changed to a different color. I want to just change everything to a different color. And
I mean, we ran into problems with PlotStyle too, but for the most part,
yeah, okay.
it's
So
pretty
I'm
simple
just saying,
because it's
right,
just a
that's
linear
why
list.
you can't expect people when you change from a bar chart to a list plot. I don't want to have to, I'm not going to change from plot style to chart style. That's a horrible mess. So plot style, we understand that plot style, if you give it a single thing, we understand what it does, right? It's always going to just make everything that color. Is that correct?
Yes.
It does that for everybody.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what plot style, the new chart style, so to speak, i.e. plot style is going to do. So now the question is, as you start doing, plot style, arrow, and then you've got a list of elements. And the problem is in list plot, because of the non-use of directive, I would like to point out that in modern times, we do have some extra degrees of freedom. For example, we can imagine an autocomplete that basically when it sees plot style of this, it hints to you, do you want that as directive? You see what I'm saying?
I don't think you have to worry too much about the levels of list because, the Civis functions are just flat. It's just a linear thing. So there's no question what the list of lists should be interpreted as.
No, the list of lists, that's right. But if I say plot style, the whole point is that these are a single level list is interpreted as a directive.
List plot of range of 10, comma plot style goes to red dotted. Is dotted red okay, list line plot probably if I'm using dotted, but
Oh, it doesn't do that. It does this like a directive,
Yeah.
right.
which is, but then if I do this,
Yep.
it's doing that.
Exactly.
So the point I'm making is, in this case, we could at least auto-suggest directive of this. You see what I'm saying? Just to get people used to the idea that you can use directive to make a single unitary thing. I think we have a certain amount of freedom with autocompletes to indicate what's going to happen. See what I'm saying? I mean, this one here, we could think about that as lists, arrow, red, blue. That it essentially autocompletes to that, or indicates that's what it's going to do. Does that make sense?
I think so.
I mean, it's a way of hinting what's happening, which I think will be useful to people. It's kind of auto-documenting what's going to happen.
Right. I mean, and those, can
So
and
we
can
gradually
adjust the
migrate.
wording, per function easily enough.
So we're trying to migrate users to use this more verbose syntax type thing, or
Well, or at least know what they're getting without having to try it.
right?
Right? I mean, if
if you know
see,
the shortcut, great. If you don't, then we'll walk
right,
you through the form.
right, but also, yes, but also the other point is, the thing that drives me crazy is, you've got some piece of graphics and you're trying out a bunch of different cases, and then eventually you're sending mail to Brett because you can't figure out how to do it. Right? But at least this would give you the idea, if you saw the thing come up, in the autocomplete, groups goes to blah, 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 elements goes to blah, 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 you have a fighting chance of knowing what's going on.
Right.
See
You
what I'm
aren't
saying?
guessing on the list order.
Yes. Yes, just like with rows and columns. We could do the same thing in grid. You don't have to guess there. Even if you don't want to use this verbose form, that's fine. You don't have to use it. But it shows you what the thing means.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so personally, I think that I think this takes the pressure off the details of we need to figure out what PlotStyle does for these different cases. And, in the case of the collective functions like list plot, as opposed to the individualistic functions like bar chart, for the collective functions, it means each collection, each list in this multi-element plot style. 4 functions, and the fact that you had to make an exception for bubble chart kind of blows the whole sort of, it's consistent for charts versus whatever's. The question is really whether for plot style, okay, I'm going to make the argument, actually rather strongly, that we double down on what might have seemed like a mistake originally, that the meaning of the list is different depending on whether the first element is a multi-data set or a single data set. And here's my suggestion. My suggestion is that, okay, here's my suggestion for charts. Okay, charts. So single directive, make it for everything.
Yep.
Okay. List of directives. If the data is a single level list, make it 4 elements. If it is a multi-level list, make it for groups. I actually think that
So
will feel very
basically it
natural.
applies at the highest level that you have.
Yes. Yes. And in fact, that also works. That even works in the case of that even justifies this case here. Because what's it going to apply? That's a good, okay, so the principle is I'm pretty sure that if I say bar chart and I say red blue, and I've got two sublists, I'm pretty sure that what I will want intuitively most of the time is first group is red, second group is blue. Not within each group, this is what happens. Now, how do we get to within each group what happens? Well, you've got the weird mix-in idea, which I think is precious and a little bit, whatever. And of course, doesn't always work but so the question is then, if you have, if it's a multi-level, let's make it for groups. So if we've got the case where we've got bar chart of 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we want to say plot style goes to, and now I want to label, I want to do this. Okay, so this one here, red, blue, that will be for groups. Okay. Now this one here, so the question is, what does it for elements? What is the syntax here that does that for elements? Do you understand the question? So what is the least bizarre syntax that does that for elements? I mean, it could just be, that could be the syntax that does it for elements. So unless the other way you do it is, if what we had here was a thing that matches the structure, green, yellow, purple, cyclic purple, blue. Does cyclic have a sublist inside?
Yes.
Okay, so what does that mean? I would almost argue that the correct thing to do is have that be a shadow of the actual data rather than, or that means, groups arrow green, yellow, elements arrow cyclic purple, blue.
Right. I mean, if it's the latter, then that's what ChartStyle, that's the approach ChartStyle
I know.
took.
In that particular case, it would agree, which I don't think would be the worst thing in the world. But the question is, what is the case which you have unbelievably obscurely done with this? See what I'm saying? Element addressing. I don't think this is the worst thing in the world. I think it's at least clear what the hell it is.
I mean, it's definitely clear what it is.
I have a question for the elements case. Do you see, so in that case you highlighted, how many elements do you see? 2 or 4?
2.
There's 2 sets of 2.
Yeah. So if I had
right,
this one,
so
three, four,
if he
five,
had 1, 2, 3 in the first one, say, right,
it would not color the last. It would not. Is it doing so? I don't think it should do cyclic. I think now that we have the cyclic wrapper, now that we're redoing this with PlotStyle, don't do cyclic unless we specify cyclic.
Okay.
Just drop it out. It doesn't have a style. Goes to default.
It would be red,
the default
blue,
style. Yeah.
It'll be red, blue, and the red, blue, nothing.
Yeah, well, and default. Red,
Yeah.
blue, and default.
Right. Okay.
Anybody think of a way to do the I don't know, things like item, is there anything there that we could use? Is
I
there
mean,
anything in...
we in the association we can have, I think,
Okay, I'm going to give you something
an item
utterly
position
obscure.
based thing, right? You know,
I'm going to give you something completely obscure, but somewhat correct. I think it's correct, isn't it?
threaded.
Threaded of what?
I'm saying just threaded of red, blue.
I mean, threaded is the thing that does like
It changes the
the addition stuff,
broadcasting.
right?
Yeah, it's broadcasting.
Right, so what this does, plus threaded...
I don't
Okay,
think people understand threaded that well.
I understand. I understand. I'm partly making this as I'm partly, it's not completely a joke, right?
No, I get it,
That's
but
what threaded does, and that's the correct thing here.
yeah, but it's
It's obscure,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it is correct.
You're not wrong, but it's just yeah.
On the other hand, it is a head that we can use. You know, in other words, if people say, you know, oh, I don't want to use the association, this is a head that actually means the right thing. Like cyclic, we could imagine, and this is something we can imagine doing for grid as well and other places. You know, this notion that this means the deeper level version.
I mean, would that mean the deeper level version, or would that also
Look at what it
mean
does. Look at what it does. Look at what it does.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm thinking even more levels. Like
So put
if you
color in there.
put, you know, if you put threaded around the one below it, where you've got the green, yellow, and you know, imagine you didn't have the cyclic. You know, where you had the, you know, would that then be the,
I don't
you know,
know. That's
element
I think this
wise
case.
matching?
Look, I think this case here is pretty obscure.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider just deprecating that case, given that we're redoing this design. I think it's not consistent with the previous PlotStyle usage, and I think it's utterly obscure.
Okay.
And that one with the none is like obscurity squared. For obscurity greater than 1. What's that?
I don't. I mean, you have to think about this as two sort of graphic dimensions that you work on.
I know
Okay?
that. But we're not giving anybody a clue that that's what's happening.
I think we do. You know, if you look at the various scope examples that explains.
I understand. But in the examples, but I mean, we're not in the naming of things. We're not doing that.
No.
Right. You know, when they're writing the code, they aren't being helped.
No.
Right. I quite like this use of threaded, by the way. I mean, it's a little bit, I admit that it's, you know, it's taking a concept, like these concepts like spliced and nothing and so on, you know, nothing has been a big win. Splice has been decent, right? I mean, you know, you say,
I didn't even know we had that.
introduced like 5
That's what, like
ago.
V10 or something, probably.
Interesting.
Pretty nice.
So before we would have done sequence.
Yes, but sequence you can't guarantee will work. But splice only works in lists, just like nothing only works in lists. Anyway, I don't think this is a completely crazy use of threaded, and I think introducing threaded in more places makes people understand it better. So okay, I think we have a proto design here. Why don't you guys try and work it through and understand, you know, how to implement it, get it maybe implemented in some cases, and figure out what the corner cases are.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're going to get this nailed. This is actually, look, and this is going to be much easier to use. And we also need to think about as you do this, please think about what the autocompletes need to be, and there may need to be some new autocomplete tooling that's built. This is going to be nice. And I think chart elements probably survives in more or less its current form.
I mean, if you wanted, we could split it into. I mean, we could pivot it to like bar elements and bubble elements and.
I don't think
Why?
that's right. I don't see a point of that.
Okay.
They're really all the same idea.
Okay.
I'm not sure the name is quite right, and I think we should think about the name. I mean, in other words,
What all
it's
these
like-
things do
Yeah.
and have enabled, what they do is to basically parameterize the design, and you could jump in at whichever level that you like. There are many levels, right? So there's chart elements, there's chart element function, there's chart layout. And then sometimes there's also a few
what
parameters.
the heck is chart layout? Is that one of these giant mega switches?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's basically just a finite list of possible layouts.
I know, which I think, as we discussed last time, I really think we need to break those out into many cases into separate functions.
Yes. And I mean, but I think you decided last time that like not all of them should be. But we we were discussing like horizontal bar charts and stacked and
right. Can we please get the list of all of those so that we're ready to figure out which ones to do? Look, I think the good news here is the functionality is there. We're just putting different cosmetics on it.
Yep.
Sandra is commenting that he remembers the splice is one of the very few cases where we have reused a previous, basically dead function.
True.
There. Okay.
So the original one was a file thing, right?
Yes, it's a very bizarre file operation that, in fact, I think probably still works if you use that syntax. But I mean, this splice.
I've seen people use it. I had a guy doing game physics basically, and what he would do is splice in auto-generated code.
Right, but this now string template does that much better.
Right.
Right.
All right. Very good.
Okay.
Talk to you all soon.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.